Imagine waking up to find an entire town erased from existence. Not destroyed, not abandoned, but gone as if it had been lifted straight off the map. No screams, no debris, no survivors. Just silence where lives once flourished. In 1978, the quiet community of Harlowe Creek vanished overnight, leaving behind nothing but questions and a chilling emptiness. Nearly half a century later, what investigators uncovered has forced people to ask, how can an entire town simply disappear? Today, if you drive through the rolling countryside of rural Pennsylvania, you'll find nothing unusual where Harlowe Creek once stood. A stretch of empty fields, a cracked two-lane road, and a few leaning fence posts are all that remain. But photographs from before 1978 tell a different story. A thriving little town with a school, a diner that smelled of fresh coffee, and a church whose bells rang every Sunday morning. Families gathered on porches. Children rode bicycles down Main Street. It looked like any other American town until it vanished. Witnesses who lived nearby recalled something unsettling the morning after. From a distance, the town simply wasn't there. No smoke rising, no collapsed buildings, just an eerie blankness, as though someone had erased Harlowe Creek with a giant hand. The county sheriff's office sent deputies to investigate. They found no residents, no animals, not even the family photographs that once lined the living room walls. It wasn't a town abandoned over time, it was gone all at once. The most disturbing detail, the silence. No birds, no insects, no sound of rushing creek water. Just a strange stillness that clung to the place like a shroud. Deputies radioed back, their voices tight with fear. It's empty, all of it. The whole town is just gone. 4 weeks afterward, curious onlookers came, hoping to see for themselves. Some brought cameras, others brought shovels, as if digging might uncover an explanation. But there was nothing beneath the soil except dirt and stone. No basements, no buried rubble, no evidence a town had ever been there. Only a haunting impression on the earth where streets once ran. Faint outlines of foundations, like scars that refused to heal. And so began one of the strangest mysteries in American history. A disappearance, not of a single person, not even of a family, but of an entire community. Harlowe Creek had been home to nearly 200 people. After the night of September 14, 1978, they were never seen again. To understand the mystery of Harlowe Creek, investigators tried to piece together the final days before the town disappeared. Scattered fragments of memory, old journals, and the rare testimony of outsiders painted a chilling picture of unease. Strange weather had swept through the region, skies glowing an unnatural orange at dusk, and sudden drops of temperature that made September evenings feel like mid-January. Locals muttered about bad air drifting through the valley, though no scientific record ever confirmed it. Then there were the lights. Dozens of farmers from neighboring towns reported seeing them, pale, shimmering orbs hovering above Harlowe Creek late at night. Some described them as no bigger than lanterns, while others swore they stretched across the sky like silent lightning. It wasn't natural, one man recalled decades later. It wasn't a storm, and it sure wasn't anything I'd ever seen in the stars. Among the few surviving artifacts was a small leather diary belonging to 16-year-old Martha Hale. In shaky handwriting, she described sleepless nights, the sound of humming under the earth, and a growing fear that something terrible was approaching. Her last entry, dated September 13th, 1978, read only, "They say tomorrow will be the last sunrise here. I don't know if I believe them, but I'm scared. Another clue came from a photograph found in a nearby thrift shop years after the disappearance. It showed a gathering at the Harlowe Creek Town Hall just 3 days before the vanishing. Smiling faces, men in suits, women holding casseroles, children laughing. Nothing unusual, except that half the photograph appeared blurred, warped, as if the film itself had melted. Experts couldn't explain it. When authorities arrived the following morning to investigate, they were struck not only by the absence of people, but by the absence of life itself. Tables were set for breakfast, coffee cups half full, rocking chairs still swaying on front porches. It was as though time had been sliced in half. Lives interrupted mid-breath, mid-motion, mid-thought, and then silence. If these accounts are true, then the final days of Harlowe Creek were not ordinary at all. They were whispers of something vast and terrifying, something no one living there would survive to explain. When the first news broke about Harlowe Creek's disappearance, the country demanded answers. Surely, there had to be a logical explanation. At first, investigators clung to practical theories. Maybe the townsfolk had staged a mass exodus, fleeing debts or lured by new opportunities elsewhere. But 200 people can't simply vanish without vehicles, luggage, or a single word left behind. The bank accounts were untouched. Mail piled up at the post office. Family across the state never received goodbyes. Next came the possibility of a natural disaster. Could a sinkhole have swallowed the town? Geologists scoured the valley, but found no evidence. No collapsed earth, no hollow caverns beneath the soil, a gas leak. Experts ruled it out. There was no infrastructure capable of releasing such a wide blanket of toxic fumes. A flash flood. The creek had been calm for weeks, its banks steady and shallow. The mundane explanations crumbled, one after another, that left the darker theories. Some whispered about a government operation gone wrong, an experimental weapon, or a top-secret relocation program. Yet no documents ever surfaced, and every Freedom of Information request came back stamped with the same cold phrase, "No records found." Others turned to the supernatural. Was it extraterrestrial? The strange lights in the sky seemed to support it. UFO enthusiasts swore it was mass abduction, that Harlowe Creek had been harvested. Skeptics rolled their eyes, but they couldn't explain the diary entries, or the unnatural silence that lingered at the site for years. And then there was the most chilling theory of all. The town itself had been bound to something far older. A secret cult was rumored to have met in the woods, whispering chants to gods long forgotten. One fragment of rumor claimed they had promised the entire community as a sacrifice, a gift in exchange for power or survival. No proof was ever found, but the idea clung to the case like a shadow. As one investigator put it, if it wasn't natural and it wasn't human, then what was it? The families of the missing lived between hope and horror, trapped by theories that offered no closure. And as years stretched into decades, the question grew heavier. Had Harlowe Creek's people been taken, erased, or willingly given away? By the early 1980s, Harlowe Creek was officially declared an abandoned settlement. The case was quietly closed, stamped as unsolvable, and boxed away in dusty archives. Authorities offered the public vague explanations: relocation, economic decline, population drift. But those who had seen the town before and after knew better. The families of the missing never stopped asking, where did 200 people go in one night? Many suspected a cover-up. The sheriff's reports from September 1978 went missing from the county courthouse. the state trooper who first radioed. In the town's disappearance resigned suddenly and moved across the country, never to speak of it again. Journalists who dug too deeply found their stories rejected by editors without explanation. It was like hitting a wall, one reporter later said. The closer I got to something real, the faster the doors slammed shut. But if the government closed the book, ordinary people refused to. Independent investigators began to swarm the mystery. In the 1990s, early internet forums became breeding grounds for theories. Families of the lost traded scraps of information. A half-burned photograph mailed anonymously. An old map marked with strange symbols. An audio recording of faint humming said to come from beneath the earth near the town site. Each clue fueled obsession. Some turned their lives upside down, chasing answers. Daniel Brooks, whose sister vanished in Harlowe Creek, spent 30 years compiling interviews, maps, and folklore. His basement walls were plastered with red string, connecting dots that stretched from rural Pennsylvania to military installations in Nevada, and even to ancient native legends about a hollow land that swallowed villages whole. He died in 2012, with no conclusion, just binders full of unanswered questions. Meanwhile, technology advanced. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, and DNA analysis opened new possibilities. A new generation of investigators argued the case should be reopened, that modern science might reveal what the 1970s could not. Yet the authorities remained silent, reluctant to disturb the long-buried file. To this day, Harlowe Creek exists in official records as little more than a footnote, vanished without explanation. But to those who lost loved ones, the silence felt deliberate. A silence not of ignorance, but of secrets. Secrets that someone, somewhere, didn't want unearthed. Nearly 5 decades later, the ground where Harlowe Creek once stood is still avoided by most locals. Travelers describe it as a place that feels wrong, too quiet, too empty, as though sound itself is swallowed by the air. Even now, visitors report strange phenomena. Cell phones die without warning. Compasses spin aimlessly, and animals refuse to cross the boundary where the first row of houses once stood. Some say the land remembers. On certain autumn nights, passers-by claim to hear faint echoes. A child's laughter carried on the wind, the distant ring of church bells, or the clatter of dishes in a diner that hasn't served a meal since 1978. Skeptics dismiss it as imagination, but those who've heard it describe the sound with haunted certainty, like the past bleeding through. The site has drawn everyone from ghost hunters to scientists. Paranormal investigators set up cameras, capturing orbs of light flickering through the fields. Geologists recorded unexplained vibrations deep underground, though no fault lines exist nearby. Even tourists with no belief in the supernatural have left shaken, unable to explain the unsettling heaviness that lingers in their chest while standing there. For the families of the missing, the ground itself has become a shrine. On anniversaries, they gather in silence, laying flowers in the grass where their loved ones' homes once stood. No graves exist, no headstones, no closure, only the raw ache of absence. It's like they were erased, one daughter whispered, now in her 60s. But if you listen, you can still feel them here. And perhaps that is the most disturbing legacy of Harlowe Creek. Not only the absence of life, but the persistence of its shadow. A reminder that disappearance does not always mean gone. Sometimes it means something is trapped, caught between presence and oblivion. The deeper question remains: if an entire town could vanish without trace, What does that say about the safety of any place? Could it happen again? Another community swallowed by silence? Or was Harlowe Creek unique? A singular event with a truth too terrible to uncover? The echoes endure, and the mystery waits unanswered, daring the world to look closer, or perhaps to look away. Harlowe Creek remains one of America's strangest cold cases, a story caught between fact and folklore. No bodies were ever recovered. No official explanation was ever accepted. An entire community, 200 souls, slipped from the world as though history itself had been edited. To this day, the name Harlowe Creek doesn't appear on most maps. It's as if erasing the town was easier than explaining it. For the families, the pain has never faded. Parents grew old, waiting for answers that never came. Children grew up without knowing why their brothers, sisters, or friends disappeared. Generations have carried the weight of not knowing, an absence heavier than grief itself. Closure never arrived, only silence. And yet, silence doesn't erase memory. Survivors still gather to tell stories of loved ones. The teacher who baked pies for her class, the mechanic who played guitar on summer nights, the child who loved chasing fireflies by the creek. They cling to the details, the humanity of those lost, refusing to let them dissolve into myth. As for investigators, the mystery continues to haunt them. New generations of researchers argue that advanced technology, DNA testing, ground imaging, atmospheric analysis could finally unravel the truth. But with every year that passes, the evidence grows colder, the questions more tangled. Was Harlowe Creek the victim of a natural phenomenon still beyond our understanding? A government secret too dangerous to reveal, or something far darker? Something humanity is not ready to face. Perhaps the most unsettling thought of all is that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. That Harlowe Creek is a reminder of how fragile our sense of reality truly is. How quickly a community can slip away, leaving only whispers in the wind. And so the question remains, echoing across the decades. What do you think happened to the people of Harlowe Creek? And if a town can vanish once, what's to stop it from happening again?